Hey guys, Magna back here for more Community Starcraft 2 videos. Today we're going to cover Zerg Mechanics, which you might wonder, what is Zerg Mechanics? We're going to be covering the physical way in which you play the game, and we're going to cover a whole bunch of different things that will help you become a better player. And like usual, I'm getting messages like I always do at the start of every video, it seems. So let me go ahead and set myself to busy. So what we're going to be covering is little tricks and tips that can help you put less effort into doing more actions. And that sounds weird, but this game really does come down to speed, and it comes down to the way that your brain just tells your fingers to work. So for people that have been playing for a long time, it really doesn't seem like that big a deal, but we're going to go through a whole bunch of different things that will help you get better as far as, controlling your army or controlling everything that needs to be done. But most of all, this is going to be an introduction to the macro video, which is going to be the next one in this series, so watch out for that. It will just be the next one in the playlist once I get it uploaded, so you can just go ahead and keep watching the playlist if you're checking that out. But yeah, so what we're going to do is I'll jump back in here into the game, and I'm going to do something a little weird that I want you guys to check out. If you're on Windows, which I'm assuming most people are, I want you to do this before we get started. This will really help you out. Jump over into the control panel, and you can see my stream in the background here. Sorry about that. Jump into the control panel. You might see this. Go ahead and just change it to small icons. Choose mouse, and go to pointer options. I want you to uncheck this enhance pointer precision because it's really vague, and it kind of screws up the speed in which your mouse reacts to everything. So it'll feel a little weird when you're in Windows, but when you're in StarCraft, it'll feel a lot better, a lot more precise. So go ahead and uncheck this box like I have right now. Hit apply and OK and whatever. You can get back out of that. We'll jump back into StarCraft. And you definitely want to set that because that's going to... It just feels slippery and it feels awkward. What it does is, a lot of people like to call it mouse acceleration. It actually makes your mouse move faster the longer you move it in a certain direction, so it's really imprecise. So yeah, the other thing that I want you to do, and this is especially important for Zerg, go into your options and go down to Hotkeys. You can set up whatever type of style you want. I play on grid, which is a lot easier to learn, I think, than just using standard hotkeys, especially if you're not set on the race that you want to use. But if you're going to play Zerg, go into your hotkeys, go down to Global here. We're going to click on Camera, expand that. And what you want to look at is Base Camera. This is by default set to backspace, but I want you to set that to something that is more comfortable for you, that's easier to get to, because if you're trying to jump all the way to backspace when you're injecting, this is going to be the main focus of this, it's going to take forever for you to get that far on the keyboard and you might misclick. So I set mine to space since it's a huge key, and my thumb is already naturally there anyway, so I just can remember that my thumb is to go back between bases. Now that's really important. And most of all, comfort with your hotkeys is very important as well, but that's the biggest one you definitely want to change. I'm not sure what they were thinking with that being backspace, since regular space is just a lot more convenient. Regular space, that's what it is. So go ahead and hit OK once you have this done. Make sure that you have all the options that were set in the previous video, which go back and check that out if you haven't seen that already. So what we're going to do here is, I'm not really going to play a game that means very much or anything whatsoever. I'm just going to set it on a very easy AI so that we can just go through all the different things I want to talk about. Pick a map, whatever. And if you want to play against AI, just choose a level that's a lot more comfortable for you at the moment, just so you can get used to doing everything. But be prepared, because in the next video we're going to be playing on Elite, and it's going to be quite hard. So that's kind of the video where we pick up and we just say, alright, and we're screwing around. We need to actually get a lot better, and we need to train and focus on what's going to be hurting us. So we're going to be playing against Protoss. It doesn't matter. We'll just set it to very easy, so it literally does not matter. They'll just sit in their base the whole game and do nothing. So we'll get started here. Of course, I'm playing Zerg since this is a Zerg video. Let me make sure I didn't screw anything up like I usually do during this part of the video for some reason. Okay, cool. I have this recording set to weird hotkeys, so if I accidentally press that, it stops recording, and I could just be talking like an idiot to myself for like 10 minutes before I realize what's going on. So yeah, you'll notice me doing that periodically throughout some of my videos, but nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to start out a little slow. We're going to gradually speed up as I explain more concepts. So let's just imagine this is your first time playing StarCraft, and your automatic thing with any PC game is, oh, the mouse does most of the work, so we could make a make a drone by selecting the larva, hitting drone. We could do it this way. We could tell our overlord to go over here. But these are all just so inefficient because if you can see on here, it shows me every type of hotkey, or which hotkey is assigned to which action. So basically what you're going to see on the interface here is that if you select a drone, you know it's selected down here. If you have multiple drones selected, they'll all be like that. So let's say you have one drone selected. These are all the different things they can do, but you don't want to use your mouse to touch these because you want your mouse to be generally in the center of your screen so that you can click on things, you can box things, you can do whatever you want while your keyboard is down here doing all this stuff. So if you do it that way, you definitely want to get used to just never touching this command panel as much as humanly possible. So that if you need to make 3 drones, instead of clicking here and going click, 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 you can just have your base selected and just go like that and have drones done anyway. And if you want to play around with this, just make sure that you just have muscle memory as to which action does which thing on your keyboard. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about other little helpful tips that will help you play the game. We're going to focus on control groups here for just a second. If you're playing on grid, you generally want to hotkey things to just like 1 through 5, since your hand isn't really going to be going on the right side of the keyboard. Just hotkey things to where they're comfortable. People that play on standard often will hotkey it to 5. You can hotkey by having something selected. Hold control and click the number that you want. So if I click 2, it'll pop up here, you can see that. If I click 3 on my keyboard, it'll pop up there, etc. So get used to hotkeying whatever you might think is important. So let's say I have this overlord out here. He's going to scout the enemy base, for example. I can hotkey him to 3, and then I can jump back and forth between my bases without my mouse ever doing anything at all. So that if I know I need to make more drones or something like that, I can just jump back and forth like that. The way I'm doing this is I'm double tapping the 1 or the 3. So this will help you get vision around the map a lot easier. So let's say, for example, if you have like an overlord, what is ping? Let me get this down. If I have an overlord like right here on the map, or right here on the map, or right here on the map, but I need to know what's going on, if I hotkey those, I can just double tap on my control grips in order to get to all these locations. Another option that you can do is you can use the camera hotkeys, and these are mapped to F5 through F8. We'll go ahead and take a look at the keys for that, and you can change those if you want, since F5 and F8 are a little awkward to get to. They're in global once again. Go to camera, and this is create locations 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So that you can hit F5, F6, F7, or F8 to get back to what you're looking at. So let's say we're going in here, and we want this one to be our first one, so that we can just hit F5 to get back to this exact screen location at any time. So go ahead and hit Control F5, and then if we jump back and forth, we can set this one to like Control F6. That way we can jump back and forth, and I'm just pressing F5 and F6 to get back to either space. So that if you have, let's say you have 3 bases, for example, you can set this one to F7, then you can jump back and forth between all of your different bases as fast as you want. That would be much better than if you had to scroll over like this to look at this base and scroll over like this, because then your mouse is getting all off center and it's hard to keep track of what your mouse is doing. So if I just hit that or this, I can be at any base that I want. So camera hotkeys are nice. A lot of people like to change them to like F1 through F4 and then change their idle worker buttons, which we'll get to now. So let's say, for example, you have some workers that are just sitting around and you want to get them back to work. One of the fundamental things in Starcraft is you always want every unit being busy throughout the game. So if you have this, let's say you have this worker here, for whatever reason you have this guy here and this guy here, and you're out doing other stuff on the map, you're moving your overlords, etc., and then you notice, oh wait, what are these guys doing? Instead of trying to select all these guys and get them back to work, you can just hit F1 to pull a random idle worker, or you can hit Control F1 to grab them all and send them back to work. Let's see. Let's talk about other little mechanic things like shift and control. Shift is used in order to stack orders on top of everything. So if I want this drone to walk here, and then here, and then there, and then there, I could, babysit every single one of his actions, tell him to go here, wait for him to get there, and then tell him to go here once he gets there. Or I could just hold shift and I could stack up his commands. So you can see the little green line means I'm telling him to move to each of those locations. You can do this with attacking as well. So say you want to have like a Zergling look around for random units or proxy buildings or whatever. I can select attack here. I can hold shift. and I can have him go all around the map if I want to, and he'll execute all these orders in that exact order until he's done, and then he'll just sit here. So you want to get used to using shift for different things like that as well. As far as control will select every one of the type of unit that you click on that's on the screen. So instead of going like this to select all my drones, I can hold control and just click on one and it'll select all of them for me. This is especially helpful if you have a big army and you need to select a certain type of unit out of there. Like let's say for example you have a whole bunch of Zerglings and a whole bunch of I don't know, Ultralists or something. And you need to separate those in order to get like Zerglings on this side and Ultralists on this side, for example. You could just hold control on the Ultras and move them all, and then the Zerglings won't have to move. Then you won't have to deal with like trying to click on every single Ultra. The other thing that the shift does is if you want to select a multiple of different types and keep them in the same selection, you can select like one drone, and then you can hold shift and continue to add units to this selection if you need very specific units out of there. So get used to the control and shift things, all the different tricks that'll help you play a little bit faster and a little bit better so that you're not fumbling around with the mouse and trying to get everything done. Let me go ahead and create some overlords here so that we can get a little bit further in this game. So again, if I need to see this overlord, I can just double tap 3, I can double tap 1 to get back to my base, or I can use my camera hotkey, which is set to F5 to get to wherever I want to go. Again, those are all just control 1, Control 2, Control 3, etc. for whichever respective control group you want, or F5, F6, F7 for different vision hotkeys. So get used to all that kind of stuff too. And again, I'll just play for just a little bit to get us in the next stage of the game, so you can see that if I'm using everything that I should be, I won't be touching any of the command panel down here. There's one stalker that I need to deal with. This is pretty funny. This is awkward. The computer made one unit and attacked me with it. I'll just kill it with my drones. And again, you'll notice that for every action I'm doing that requires something to be done down here on the panel, I don't need to go and click on here. I can just have my keyboard do all these actions. And you'll get used to that as well. So that another thing you can do is like if you need to create units when you're not looking at your base, you can see this little number of how many larvae you have, and you don't have to look at your base in order to do that. You can just hit 1, which I have my hatchery selected as you can see, Q to select my larva, and then QQ to make 2 drones. I never had to look back at my base in order to do that. So the more you can get used to just not having to look at things and just do them because you know they need to be done, the easier time you're going to have. So practice stuff like that as well, like not looking at your base, making units, or telling units to do stuff. Like if I have my overlord selected that I have on 3, you can see him here. I can tell him to walk back, or I guess float back, to this other location by just right-clicking on the minimap. You can see him moving as well. So you need to get used to doing stuff like that too. And again, if you watch the best players in the world, they don't need to see every little thing happening all the time. Because if I know, like, for example, I went back to look at my overlord to see what it was getting attacked by, to see if I really needed to consume my attention on it. But I could always just, you know, be like, okay, well, I need this overlord definitely needs to go here so he can't get hit by the stalker anymore. I could just do that without even looking at it and command him to go to that area, so I wouldn't have to look away from what I was actually looking at. So get used to stuff like that too, and you're going to see a lot of this in the macro video in action as well. So I just want to kind of start you off with a little bit of an easier video because the macro video is actually pretty intense. So again, you can see I'm doing a whole bunch of different actions without touching any of my stuff down here. I'm making Zerglings, I'm taking gas, etc. We can go ahead and take a couple of bases. And our units will walk down there, each one having their own assigned task, which you can see if you would hover back over them. So like let's say I have these 2 Zerglings on patrol. You can see the patrol lines here are in blue. When I deselect it, you can't see it anymore, so you can jump back and forth to see whatever you need to see. So yeah, get used to these different little things that I'm talking about here, and you can always practice them. If you put specific energy into this, the easier the rest of the game is going to come to you, so be prepared for stuff like that. Now we're going to talk more specifically Zerg Mechanics now. I'm going to put out a queen, which is a very fundamental part of how Zerg actually works. So we're going to wait for her to build. In the meantime, you'll notice that I have all 3 of my hatcheries on 1 now. I'm going to demonstrate that base camera once all these get up. But in order to hotkey all these hatcheries, I had the one selected. I'll hold shift, select this one, hold shift and select this one. Now I have all 3. I can save this to my control group. It'll override what I had before. I can also save it to whatever I want. You can see all these other ones popping up down here. You can see me pressing on the buttons right there. So yeah, just hotkey it to however you're comfortable. Here's the queen. We're going to hotkey her as well because she's really important. And we're going to mess with these two little abilities down here called Larva Spawn and Spawn Creep Tumor. The larva in particular is very important because every unit you're going to create, aside from the queen obviously, requires larva. So if you can see, this will create 2 zerglings, but every other unit here will only create 1. So if I have 4 larvae available and I create 4 drones, you can see these are the eggs. They're going to come out of the egg soon. But the queen allows you to have more larvae so that you don't have to constantly wait for your hatchery to produce a larva for you. So the most important thing is to inject as much as possible. You can see that the injects take 25 energy, so you need to make sure you have that on your queen. The injects also take about 40 seconds to wear off. So every 40 seconds, you need to be jumping back to your base to make sure your queen is doing what she should be doing. So we'll go ahead and we'll use our camera hotkeys to jump between bases here so that we can make sure that they're all working. But I also need to create more queens. 1 queen per hatchery is really fundamental, so get used to doing that, and at least 1 extra for creating more creep tumors around the map. Our creep is, or rather not our creep, our larva is done. So as soon as you see that, hit that inject button, click on the hatchery again, so this hatchery is constantly creating more than just 3 larvae at a time. So okay, cool, we'll wait for these extra guys to come out. We'll make sure that we're all comfortable. We'll start getting upgrades here. And again, instead of scrolling like this, I could always just use my camera hotkeys if I was that agile. So if I know my spawning pool's back here, rather than hotkeying my spawning pool, if I need to get back to it, I can always just hit F5 and jump back. So okay, we're going to introduce a couple of more advanced mechanics here. I'm going to hotkey all my queens to 2. I'm going to show you guys a really quick way to inject all of your bases at once to make sure that they're working without too much effort. So rather, you could either jump by base by your camera hotkeys, but I think that's a little bit too clumsy. Let me deal with these units really fast. Make sure we don't lose our queen. Okay, cool. So if I have all my injecting queens on 2, I'm going to put my creep queen on 4. So that she can be out on the map spreading creep, and these queens can be back here with the sole job of making more larvae for us. So if you want to inject your bases really fast, like I was saying, you could either use F5, F6, F7, etc. to jump between your bases, or you could just select your queens, you could inject once, you could hit space, and it'll jump you to your next base. Inject again, inject again. And I'm using this by hitting that space button that I had you set before the video starts. That's going to center your vision on the next hatchery in order that you have mining. So if you jump between these bases, you can inject really fast. We'll wait for this inject to wear off. Actually, wait for all of them to wear off, and I'll show you how fast you can inject so you don't have to spend that much time worrying about it. And the faster you inject, the easier it's going to be to run the rest of the game. So okay, this is our last hatchery. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay, they've all spawned. Now we're just going to go ahead and show you how quickly we can do this by combining the spacebar and the shift button. So if you hold shift, you'll know you're going to keep the same command up so you can do it over and over. So we're going to have it centered here. We're going to hold shift. We're going to hit X to spawn larva. Now you can see my targeting thing is already ready to start clicking on the hatchery. If I just go like this, 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 I'm just holding shift the whole time. All I have to do is just alternate clicks between my spacebar and my mouse so that I can inject really, really fast. Now if you do this correctly, you'll be able to create entire swarms of armies immediately, because I have right now a ton of larvae. I can select all my hatcheries at once that are producing larvae and see that I have 29. So if I need like 29 zergling, or rather 29 pairs of zerglings, or in this case 29 drones, I can just do that really fast by just holding the key down. You'll notice I'm supply blocked, so we'll go ahead and just make some overlords so we don't have to deal with that anymore. Again, our creep is done, or rather our larva is done. Wow, I'm bad. So we can inject larva again. We're going to go X, hold shift, click here, space, space. Now all of our hatcheries are spawning larvae. So again, this stuff is really important to make sure that you have the speed in order to play Zerg. Zerg is actually pretty APM intensive, so you need to be able to have all these tricks down so that you can waste as little APM as possible, making sure you're doing everything that needs to be done. So again, we can see we have tons of larvae here. We can create drones, and we can either create drones by clicking the button really fast, or you can create whatever you want by just holding it down, and it'll just spam right through, assuming all of your Windows settings are correct. Once again, our larva is done. We're going to spawn larva, hold shift. Bam, already done. So this seems silly, it seems a little repetitive, it seems droning, for lack of a better word, lol. But this is really important to your race. If you're wasting a lot of time being slow with your injects, you're going to have a lot less time to pay attention to what's going on with the map. You might lose your army, or the other players just going to be playing faster than you, and you're start to fall behind. So we'll do this a little fast now. Again, we just injected all of our hatcheries. A couple of them weren't ready quite yet because I was being a little slow before. You can see that all of our hatcheries are spawning larvae now, and we have tons of larvae available to make whatever we want. So if you want to just keep making drones so you have more money, you can do that. Alright, cool. So we're getting pretty far. Let's jump onto creep spread now, as this lonely queen's been hanging out here. What we're going to do for every larva cycle, we're going to remember to spread our creep right after anyway, because the creep is really important, since these little tumors will grant you vision around the map. And they can also spread themselves once they get rooted, as you see this little thing coming down here. And just make sure that we can deal with this. And again, if you were injecting faithfully, you would know that you have a whole bunch of larvae ready to go. So you don't need to worry about anything like that. So let's go ahead and do that again. Space, bring up our queen. X, hold shift, click, click, click. Alright, cool. So all those are working, and now what I want you to get in the habit of after you inject is I want you to get a habit of double tapping your creep queen, or whatever, however many creep queens that you want, so that you can start to get map vision around the map as well. I'm holding shift to do these actions as well. So that you spend maybe every 40 seconds, which is when your when your larva needs to be re-injected, you can spend about 4 seconds just spreading your creep as well. And if you do that, you'll notice that you can just get entire map vision. You can see enemies coming from really far away. And if you keep up on this, you notice I centered back on my queen once again, just out of habit. We can start spreading creep again. There's only a certain range for these tumors, and they do take a little while to settle, as you can see. I'm not actually sure what the timer is, so 15 seconds. So you should have more than enough time to jump back and forth between your bases from when the creep, or rather from when the larva is done spawning to when you need to be spreading creep again. So center on our queen once again. And I want you to just get really used to this, because this is the underlying ways in which your race is played. And the faster you can do all this, the less time you'll have to... See, I have a whole bunch of time now. This has only been about 20 seconds, and I'm still talking and goofing off. Like, I can get my army out here, I could scout what he's doing, I could do all of that, only because I'm injecting quickly enough. So again, just get used to these little repetitive mechanics. And like I said, they do seem boring, but they're going to be the fundamental underlying, things that are going to help you play Zerg better. So again, spread or inject, we'll spread creep, control to select the tumors, click around. Now look how much time I have. The inject had only been happening for probably about 8 seconds when I was done with that. So I'm spending 8 seconds about every 40 seconds. The rest of that time I can do whatever I want. I can make more units. I have 51 larvae right now, so I can just turn out an entire army. I could do a whole bunch of different stuff. So I could just keep going over this over and over, but this is just a preview of what you're going to see in the macro video. So we'll center our vision. Inject creep, or rather inject larva again. Man, I'm so bad at separating between larva and creep. But yeah. And again, we'll just get used to double tapping our queen, and then we'll go back to what we're doing. The more you notice this, and especially the more you notice this while you're being pressured, the easier time you're going to have dealing with everything that needs to be dealt with. The reason you also want to spread creep is because Zerg really is the race that kind of just takes as many bases as they want. But they need to know where everything is around the map so that they can adequately prepare for that. So again, our creep is up, or rather, geez, our larva is up. I am so bad. We'll just inject really fast, get this queen busy again, spread our creep the best we can. Don't spend too much time spreading creep. As long as you get a couple tumors going, don't worry about getting every single active one going, because you're just going to waste time doing that. You can see, if there was an army coming across the map, and let's say my army was... Where are my Zerglings? Well, you could do that by hitting F2 to pull up any extra Zerglings you might have, but I did lose them all. So we'll just create a whole new army. All these Zergs, or rather all these Zergs, all these drones are idle right now. And now I'm being attacked. I can select my hatcheries, tell all my stuff to rally out here. And we'll easily clean this up, only because we have this information, because he's being slowed down by killing our creep tumors. So okay, one last little hotkey I want to show you guys. This probably isn't something you should get into the habit of, but it does kind of help cut corners a little bit. Is the F2 key will select all of your army, not counting your queens, so that you can just get them over and get them attacking. Okay, well, like I was talking about before, we do have a whole bunch of idle drones. We'll just hit Control F1 to get them all selected. We'll send them to a new base so that they can get back to work, so that we'll hopefully have no idle workers throughout the game. And again, our creep is up. Geez, our larva is up. I swear I'm going to stop doing that. You got to be careful though, because you need to make sure you have one queen at every base. You can see that I told it to inject at this base that does not have a queen. So when you get a base created, either have a queen that's already hotkeyed to your injecting queens that's ready to transfer over, or just build one once these hatcheries are done, and try to do your best just to not have your queens walking around all the time and getting out of control. So my creep queen died. We need to create new queens for that as well at some point, but I think you guys get the point by now. So yeah, I think that'll probably do it for the Zerg Mechanics for right now. I hope this helped out, can help you guys get faster at getting everything done that needs to be done. And again, I'm sending my queens off into oblivion because they don't have dudes there for them. So again, if you want to hotkey the rest of your queens, pull up 2, hold Shift, select her, Shift, select her, Control 2 to put them back in the same group. Now you can see you have 5. You also should have 5 hatcheries that are producing larvae. So okay, again, this feels like I'm just being repetitive, but you really need to be on top of your injects, on top of your creep sped. All that different stuff is just going to help you play better. So you can see how quickly it really just does not take that much effort to inject larvae on everything if you're able to just get the motions down and get everything down that needs to be done. So okay, like I was saying before, the next video is going to be all about Zerg Macro, and it's going to be pretty intense. We're going to be going really fast, so I want you guys to make sure you review all the concepts that are introduced in this video so that you're able to keep up with what's going on. I'm not asking you to be as fast as me, but I am asking you to at least understand what's happening so that you can put it into your own games. If you have any questions about what we covered in this video, please feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to help out, or other users that see your comments will be able to help out. If you want to see me stream live, I do have a stream there. You can see at the bottom right, twitch.tv/magnetse2. I stream periodically. I also host some show match type of events where people just play each other and we have some fun. So check that out. For now, I hope that if you're watching this, the next video in this playlist is the macro video. So we'll get straight into that and get ready because it's going to be pretty hardcore. So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.